Brings us to our next matter, administrative applications for review and action before the full council. 2023-10-104, Algonquin Gas Transmission LLC, to replace a portion of the pipeline from the pump station in Portsmouth to East Main Road in Little Compton. And the applicant is here with counsel, correct?
Yes.
Could you just identify yourself, please?
Or good evening, Joelle Rocha, attorney for the applicant tonight.
Who's got this one first? And Rich Lucia has this for,
Amy.
I'm sorry, who? Amy's got it?
My bad.
We both
I'm just going by what's in my head. Someone's got it. And if you could just make a presentation, please, to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you indicated, this is a proposal to replace a portion of a natural gas line that has been in existence since the early 1950s. It's a linear pipeline project that extends from just south of Black Point in Portsmouth to just south of Secaucet in Little Compton. The work is within an existing utility easement, and where it is not, sign-offs from all the affected property owners have been received. This was reviewed as a freshwater wetlands in the vicinity of the coast program because there is some temporary impact to the buffer zone associated with cotton swamp in Portsmouth and some of its associated nearby wetlands. The proposal also crosses beneath the Secaucet River, with no impact to coastal features or the Secaucet River, as the entirety of that will be done by directional drilling. The portion under Cotton Swamp is also going to be done by directional drilling. There was some temporary disturbance within the buffer zone associated with the wetland, which will be restored upon completion of the project. The application was reviewed, as I said, as a freshwater wetlands application, and it was conditionally approved in February of 2024, and a draft assent was written and provided to the applicant. It was a draft because at that time, we did not have all of the signatures from the affected property owners. There was a programmatic challenge between our program and some of the federal things the applicant was going through, where we required it ahead of time, they required it afterwards, and needed some notification from us before they could get to that step. So we wrote up a draft assent and waited to get the conditions to be met, which was the sign-offs from all the affected property owners. The sign-offs were received in mid-March of 2024. It's quite a number of them. And as the assent was being prepared to be a final assent, not a draft assent, an objection was received. Since that objection was received, several others were received, which is why it is before you tonight. Staff has reviewed the objections under the freshwater wetlands program, as well as the Red Book, and believes that the objections do not appear to rise to a substantive objection and has no objections with council approving this application this evening.
Thank you. Any questions of the council of Amy?
Just have a comment going through it, and the objection was withdrawn, or you just mentioned that it kind of disappeared.
It did not disappear.
Yeah.
The objections, the several objections came in.
Okay.
We reviewed the objections and do not believe that they rise to substantive.
All right. So it was a decision on our part.
Correct.
Okay, great. But what I really wanted to say is that, I mean, this project is kind of like a must-do. I mean, we're worried about climate change, and we can't have methane leaks off into the atmosphere and stuff. Little Compton is a site that it does come ashore, but we don't use any of that gas that I know of. But it's definitely a necessary infrastructure, And that we simply don't need any problems with the existing pipelines.
It is
They've been there for a while, I think, and need an update. And I did see where they were going to increase the diameter, but so what,
It's my understanding that this is the only natural gas pipeline to Aquidneck Island.
Yeah, it is. And just a little history from, I don't know, whenever they put it in 50 years ago or something, but they were responsible for killing off all the rattlesnakes into when they put that pipeline through, they went through a rattlesnake. And, we used to have great fun going to the town dump, and the guy would have a couple of rattlesnakes captured that he caught up in the hills. So that's my little liberty for the night. But in my opinion, you've got to do it. I mean, I just don't see any way that we shouldn't go.
Any other questions of Amy from the council? Okay, Councilor, please.
Thank you. Minus the rattlesnakes. Silva and Mr. Gomez really stole my thunder on this. What we did want to emphasize, and we have our team here tonight, a representative of Algonquin, as well as our expert. The report is in the record. A lot of this content is in the record, so we will present at a very high level. Again, this is the only pipeline to Aquidneck Island. This is one of the regulatory steps in the process for this, ultimately culminating in approval from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The State Historic Preservation has reviewed it. The Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Interior, Fish and Wildlife have also reviewed this. So we're here on our stop along the way. I would also submit, as Ms. Silva said, that none of the objections received were substantive in our opinion. We won't be addressing things like we should be shifting to renewable energy. We're really here on an existing pipeline that needs to be updated. On that note, enough from me, and I will turn it over to our technical people to describe the process and really the studies that went into where we are today.
Sure. Hello, my name is David Butler. I am the project manager for Enbridge. I think everyone's already stated.
Excuse me, sir. We just need to swear you in before you begin your testimony. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
David Butler, DAVID BUTLER.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
And once again, your position?
Project manager.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Sure. So the major purpose of the project, reliability. We want to be able to provide gas service to the island. 12-inch pipeline. We have two drills, one that goes under the wetland, the other that goes under the river itself. Our operating pressures stay roughly the same. We go up a little bit, but we don't increase our service at all. We are mostly doing this, we're only doing this for reliability of the island. That's our main purpose of this project. So everything else is pretty straightforward for us. The means, the methods, and things like that are typical to what we do with pipeline construction. So there's no concerns from our side, anything that happens or what we're going to be doing if something does occur. We have plans in place and we'll be able to address whatever it is as it occurs in the project. So pretty straightforward for us.
Any questions of Mr. Butler? Yes, Mr. Gagnon.
Yeah. So it looks like on the project plans that the pipeline is going to be well past 200 feet deep in sediment. Is that correct?
It is 200 feet deep under the river, not in sediment. The expectation is for it to be into rock. We did do core bores in the river to determine the rock elevations, the bottom of the river, things like that. At the deepest point, we're still about 40 to 50 feet below the riverbed. And then the pipe is in solid rock through that path.
There'll be no conflicts with any other pipelines or future transmission cables in the river.
Correct. We are quite a bit deeper than that, and that's part of the reason for doing that as well.
Thank you.
Will they follow the same exit and entrance to Little Compton points that are there pretty physically right now.
On the west side, it's a different location. That's where we're back on the east side of the swamp. On the east side, we're reasonably close to where that comes out to now.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Reynolds.
Two questions. One, was the condition and size of this related at all to the gas outage that happened in Newport in, I think, 2018? Is this going to help with that supply at all for equipment?
So I will say that the pipe itself is unrelated to that issue. So that one doesn't have anything to do with the other.
So this won't help in a situation from happening again.
It is my understanding from the reports that the pipe itself was not the issue.
But the fact that this is going to be twice the size of that original pipe isn't going to help with the capacity.
It doesn't increase the capacity. What it does is it basically creates a volume bottle, which gives us better reliability. We're able to increase our pressure a little bit, still stay within requirements, but then also provide a better flow to the island.
And you're limited on how much gas you can bring to the island, right?
That's correct. We have like hard service to the island, and we're kept within our requirements and around what we've kept for contracts in the area.
Okay. And then I noticed there was one section of pipe that's left in place and most of it's removed. When it lands on Portsmouth, why was that kept in place?
I'm not exactly. We're leaving the majority of the pipe in place and routing it in place to fill the void. We'll take out the pipe that we need to on the west side to be able to make those tie-ins and cross over from the new pipe to the old pipe. So the vast majority gets grouted in place, and we'll just take out what's required to be able to keep both, to put the new pipeline into service.
Mr. Flynn.
Many of the comments received seem to focus on increasing the size of the pipe as opposed to the pipe itself. And you're saying that your intention is not to increase the flow. And I believe, without putting words in people's mouths, that many of the objections are based on the fact that as a state, we're trying to wean ourselves off of natural gas as a primary fuel source over time. So I think I heard you say that you're not going to increase the flow, but you would have the capacity to increase the flow, would you not, if you're doubling the width of the pipe?
Or you're not, because we're going from a 12-inch back down to a 6-inch, so you're bottlenecked at the island anyways. So,
Oh, I see. So,
right. So what
it's
we've
just
done
in this,
behind that, we've created a volume that we can draw off of.
that doesn't create any other problems, like, 4 lanes of 195 going down into 2. It's not
So that's what the
that.
increase in
It
pressure.
took me 50 minutes to get there.
We've increased the pressure of that pipe a little bit to account for that. So that's what that increase in pressure is, which in turn allows that on the downstream side.
And among the options in your report, I didn't see any discussion of an option being just replacing a 12-inch pipe. I mean, a 6-inch pipe with another 6-inch pipe. That's not an option.
To keep the condition the way it is, it technically would be an option, but for what it's worth, for the effort that we go in to do what we're doing, we're able to increase our reliability as well as then give a larger piece of pipe that can be provide a better service to the island. So by doing that, we're taking the time and the effort to be able to make it a better situation without having to keep issues from occurring down the road potentially.
And several of the comments also mentioned the possibility of relining the pipe. Is that an option?
No. One, by relining it, you'll reduce the diameter. So depending on the size of the pipe, your wall thickness on that line would be a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick. You could reduce that down to as much as 4 inches, let's say. As well as those liners are typically more for a lower pressure system. So we're up over, we're at like 368 PSI, I believe. So that would be typically over what a liner is good for, as well as what we like to do is have a much larger safety factor in place. So when you consider the fact that we want to be able to place a safety factor, we want to be able to test and things up to almost double that pressure. So when we do our testing, we do different things like that. We got to be able to have enough buffer to feel safe with it.
And relining the pipe would reduce that.
Correct. We'd have to operate at a lower pressure and restrict the flow.
Thank you.
Any further questions of Mr. Butler? Thank you, sir.
My name is Caitlin Wheeler.
Ms. Wheeler, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Caitlin Wheeler, Katelyn Wheeler.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler.
I just wanted to provide some background on the environmental surveys and permitting that we completed for the project. We did studies of wetlands and water bodies. We identified natural resources within the project area that would be jurisdictional with the Army Corps of Engineers as well as CRMC and Rhode Island DEM. And we did habitat assessments for threatened and endangered species. We also did archaeological surveys to identify any potentially sensitive archaeological sites that may be located within the project area. Following those surveys, we prepared applications with Fish and Wildlife. We reached out to Rhode Island DEM for input. We completed consultation with Rhode Island SHPO and the associated federally recognized tribes in the area. We completed consultation with all those agencies, and then we incorporated that into the CRMC application that we submitted to the CRMC. And through those consultations and our permit applications, we found that the impacts would be minimal and significant, would not negatively impact the greater environmental area. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
And Caitlin, this is all in the SWCA report.
That's correct. The application that was submitted to the CRMC.
Any questions of Ms. Wheeler? Thank you.
The one thing I failed to add was, and last minute I sent it over, so it may not be part of your packet, but there was a letter in support sent to FERC from Rhode Island Energy, who summed up the need. It really sums up the need for this safety, reliability, and integrity that we've been talking about, and I can submit that into the record if it's not already in the record.
Attorney Kocha, so we can take your representation on those documents, but unfortunately, under 1.5.9 of the management procedures, we can't actually take that into evidence.
Fair enough. For now, and the question.
Any follow-up questions at this point from the council? And that's as far as your presentation, correct? Is there anyone else present this evening that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Okay. Is there anyone present this evening that wishes to speak in opposition of the application? All right, we're going to start over here with yourself. No, we're going to start. Yep. In front, and then we're gonna go down. Well, no, here's what I'm doing. I'm starting with you, and I'm going down the line, and then we can do yourself, sir. And
do we have to go up there?
Yes, please.
No, ma'am, but would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Okay, Lorraine Savard, Lorraine Savard, SAVARD. I wrote up a little something, not very long. I asked, what is the purpose of the Coastal Resource Management Council? You all must know the purpose, but I did my research and it was a revelation. ... to preserve, protect, develop, and where possible, restore the coastal resources of the state for this and generations to come. To produce, the maximum benefit for society, for the best interest of the state and its people, to protect the state's resources. So, allowing the expansion of a fracking gas line does none of the above mentioned admirable goals. The CRMC must not permit this abomination to move forward. I implore you not to allow the destruction of the beautiful Sakonnet River for the sake of delivering a soon-to-be obsolete power source, that is, natural gas. Remember, natural gas is a fracking lie, and so is its more dangerous sister, liquefied natural gas. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Sabat? Thank you. Next in that row that wishes to speak, going this way.
Hi, my name is David Brunetti, B-R-U-N-E-T-T-I, 935 Sherman Farm Road, Harrisville, Rhode Island. I'm also a member of Climate Action Rhode Island. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to present my comments. As someone who has spent much time and effort to get Rhode Island's Act on Climate legislation passed and signed into law on April 14th, 2021, I cannot stand by and let this project go forward without expressing my opposition. I strongly urge you to reject this project for the following reasons. The purpose of the Act on Climate legislation is to reduce our state's collective carbon emissions to net zero by 2050. We cannot do this if this project is approved. It is obvious that there is deceit in Enbridge's stated objective for the project, which they claim is for the purpose of reliability, not additional capacity. By doubling the diameter of the pipeline, there would be an increase in its capacity by 300%. So the total amount of flow would be increased to 4 times the current capacity. It's simple math. However, even though there is a stated bottleneck of a 6-inch diameter pipe elsewhere, this could easily be later on diameter increase to allow for this increase in flow. So instead, they should increase the reliability of the pipeline, their stated objective, by relining the existing pipeline via a process known as cured in place lining, CIPL, which can line pipelines from 4 inches to 48 inches in diameter, creating a durable and impermeable composite pipe within the original pipeline without affecting flow capacity. This is what they should be doing. Additionally, the proposed process for expansion of the pipeline, which is a mix of horizontal directional drilling for some segments and cut and cover for other segments, is very disruptive to the environment of the workspace. Horizontal directional drilling is often touted as much less disruptive, but can experience accidents through frackouts, which leaks during drilling mud into the environment. Notably, Enbridge has a bad record with horizontal directional drilling. Enbridge's Line 3, built in 2021, had 28 frackouts when under construction. To add to the potential negative impacts from such a project, the Sakonnet River is home to sea turtles and Atlantic sturgeon and other threatened species. A frackout could have disastrous impacts on their habitats. We do not need extra capacity for natural gas. What we do need, desperately need, is a massive transition to clean and renewable energy. By allowing this project to move forward, you would be committing us to decades more of gas use or stranded assets if the system becomes disused before its end of life. This is not acceptable. Again, thank you for providing me with the opportunity to comment on this topic.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Brunetti? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Kelly, K-E-L-L-E-Y, from Cranston, Rhode Island. Previously of Fairmont, West Virginia. So my experience with oil and gas companies is not a happy one. Marcellus Shale. Rhode Island and the CRMC are compelled to comply with the law, as Dave said, and act on climate, which mandates that we reach net zero by 2050. Expanding fossil fuel use, expanding pipelines will not help us achieve that goal. In addition, the International Energy Agency is calling internationally for an immediate end to all investment and all new investment in fossil fuel pipelines. Our very survival is at stake, and that is now on your shoulders. Beyond the absolute necessity to end expansion of fossil fuels, it would be best not to deal with perhaps untrustworthy players. Enbridge's pipeline record is not the best. Between 1996 and 2014, Enbridge had 1,270 spills of one nature or another. Moreover, Enbridge has a history of not listening and of not being truly careful. For instance, the NTSB reports that the rupture on August 1st, 2019 in Danville, Kentucky, which resulted in the release of 101.5 million cubic feet of natural gas that ignited into a massive fireball, was due to training failings and to a manufacturing defect. NTSB indicates that Enbridge knew about the defect for years and failed to properly mitigate the situation. While there are integrity management regulations that work to maintain safe and functional pipelines, it is largely up to the operator on how they identify and mitigate threats. The NTSB notes in their investigation that even though Enbridge did complete a few integrity management actions, there were several deficiencies. This article ends noting that what happened in 2019 eerily repeated from their NTSB 2012 Marshall, Michigan report. In other words, Enbridge knew ahead of time that there were difficulties, not only from warnings around the Danville, Kentucky pipeline, but also from what they should have learned from the NTSB 2012 report analysis of what happened in Marshall, Michigan. As an aside, when I read in the Algonquin report, the CRMC made available to the public, when I saw that the answer to endangered species that might be affected by the pipeline was basically that Enbridge will be careful, I was not encouraged. While you may say, oh, those pipeline problems happened years ago, I say my years of watching oil and gas fracking and pipelines and local and federal governments' unwillingness to rein them in has convinced me that anything at all that might interfere with profit or speed will be disregarded or the subject of endless lies. Let us not fool ourselves into thinking things have become better over time. According to NOAA's Office of Response and Restoration, there have been 64 incident reports in May of 2024 compared to 19 incidents in May of 2023. For the planet to survive, it is immoral and I would claim criminal to pursue any expansion of fossil fuels in any form whatsoever. I urge you to do all in your power to stop the expansion of the Sakonnet River Enbridge pipeline. It is dangerous, it is unnecessary, and only accelerates mass extinction. Stop it now. And the reason I say it's unnecessary is exactly what Dave was referring to, the lining that can repair a pipe. You don't need a new pipe and you don't need more capacity. It's like having nuclear weapons. If you got them, you might have to use them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Kelly? Thank you.
And I have information here if you would like copies I don't know if you're allowed to take them.
And that would be subject to the same rules I had mentioned earlier.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joel Gates, Joelgates, and I'm a resident of Gloucester, Rhode Island. I am here to voice my opposition to Enbridge and Algonquin Gas Transmission's draft permit application. I have that right. We have a climate change problem. This pipeline expansion plan is counter to what we should be doing. Rhode Island is supposed to be decreasing its reliance on fossil fuels, so increasing the size of the pipeline under the Secundit River is exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. The Act on Climate demands it. We should now have a plan in place to not only reduce our gas consumption, but eliminate it altogether. With this planned expansion, we're heading in the wrong direction. Enbridge is setting us up in Rhode Island, and we will Rhode Island residents for a lawsuit, which can happen if we do not meet our Act on Climate goals. Does Enbridge care? Supposedly they do. To prepare for tonight's meeting, I checked out Enbridge's website, and they do have a modest portfolio of wind and solar energy generation projects. It looks good, but I sense it messes with their business model. Under their sustainability tab, Enbridge states, and I quote, "As a leading North American energy delivery company, we're positioned to help society transition to a lower emissions future," end quote. Clearly, helping us is not part of Enbridge's plan. Enbridge also states, and I quote, "We're committed to net zero greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2050. That sounds great, but it is too little and too late. We have to quickly phase out all combustible fuels, including so-called clean bridge fuels like renewable natural gas. The only bridges we should be building are with real renewables like wind and solar. Please deny this application."
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Gates? Thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Justin Boyan, Boyan, Providence. Do you need my address?
No, sir.
Okay. Hi. I didn't prepare remarks, but I am in opposition to expansion of the pipeline under the Secundit, and on two bases. One, I think, judging from my own personal experience and also looking at national and international statistics, fossil fuel use has peaked. We see a transition already underway and accelerating, and just looking at my own usage in my home, having switched to an electric vehicle and to electric hot water heating, my own use of natural gas is down, and I think that will be true for the residents of Newport County and places served by this pipeline. So in terms of the need for expanded gas, it's not in line with the trends. We see that fossil fuel use is decreasing, not only because it has to by law in Rhode Island, but just because the technology is now available to power ourselves with clean energy. And of course, more renewable energy will be coming online soon as the wind farms go up. And then, of course, the second point is the environment and the future for my kids who are now entering adulthood. You know, we heard the testimony that Enbridge conducted environmental assessments, and they checked out, you know, the seabed and the marshland on the other side of the river. But I didn't hear a climate impact analysis. And every environmental group from Climate Action Rhode Island to the Sierra Club to Audubon to Save the Bay to the Nature Conservancy, anyone who's paying attention to the science of the environmental catastrophe that we're in right now knows that the number one environmental concern is climate change. It's important to, to pay attention to the health of the marsh grass and so on, but the climate crisis is what's threatening every ecosystem in Rhode Island and on Earth. And so I was very surprised that there weren't any questions about the environmental testimony that was given when the climate wasn't even mentioned. So hopefully in your paperwork, there are clear-eyed assessments about what the climate impact of an expanded pipeline would be, and I hope those can be weighed in your decision-making. That's all.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Boyan? Thank you, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. Peter Trafton is my name. I'm a registered voter and resident of Providence, but spent actually more of my life at this point in Little Compton, on the shore, or just above the shore of the Secundit River. Our kids and our grandkids, and even I sometimes, when the water's feeling warmer, swim in the river. We're less than half a mile from where the pipeline is going to be. Tide goes in and out, it's not downstream, upstream, and the kind of river that the Secundit River is. So anything that leaks out of a pipe that is under the water is likely to be where we swim, where we windsurf, where some of us occasionally try to catch some fish who may be threatened as well. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share my own personal experience with you. I happen not to have to go very far to get here tonight, but it takes about an hour, more than that with Rich not cooperating lately, for folks from Little Compton or Tiverton or from Aquatic Island to come here and be with you tonight and share their experiences. And I would hope that there is something that could be done to give them an opportunity to have their voices recorded, as I am so privileged to be able to do tonight. I think that you've heard what my most important message is, and that is that climate change is really the villain. And that's what we all need to do to protect our families and our friends and our environment from the future. And it's getting warmer and it's getting more polluted and more dangerous for us throughout the state, not just on the coast, throughout the world, not just in Rhode Island. You know that. And you also know that the answer is that we've got to stop burning fossil fuels. Simple. It's a big project. It's going to be demanding for Rhode Islanders to make the. I fear that there will be lawsuits, but we're trying to start now to stop doing the problem building of bringing in more gas. You heard from my eloquent companions that this is going to bring more gas. It's not going to just make it a little bit more efficient or a little bit more reliable than it's been. I have colleagues who are working to try to change the whole process of energy provision to Aquidneck Island. And right now, there's a docket going on in the PUC, and I actually am privileged to participate in this too, in trying to figure out what the future of natural gas will be and how we'll be able to stop bringing natural gas into Rhode Island and stop having it provide heating and other energy sources for Rhode Islanders. This is something we're going to have to do to comply with the Act on Climate. It's something we should all do to take care of our world. I could go on, but you know what the message is. Well, thank you very, very much for the opportunity. I'm done.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Trafton? No. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Greg Garrett, G-R-E-G-G-E-R-R-I-T-T. Last year, Phoenix, Arizona, twice as many people died of heat as ever before. You go around the world, the floods, the hurricanes, the monsoons, everything that's related to the weather is going crazy and killing more people. I want you to keep that one in mind, that the climate crisis is already killing thousands of people a year. I consider these guys murderers for promoting fossil fuel use. CRMC is a member of the EC4. Have you brought this to the EC4? Did you actually talk to them about the climate implications of it? I mean, most of those people are just bureaucrats too, and they're not really going to stand up. But, you know, the technical advisory, the advisory committees, none of those are going to tell you that this is a good project for Rhode Island. You know, you've heard about their record, and their record isn't very good. We've all heard of Enbridge. You know, the people of Rhode Island, when given an opportunity, a fair opportunity, stop these kinds of projects. They do not let them go if you conduct a full, open, public process. You will hear hundreds of people telling you this. And you know, the CRMC has a very bad reputation, which is probably why people keep trying to disband it, because you keep screwing the people of Rhode Island with this stuff. You keep doing a lot of really bad stuff, you know. And
so why don't you keep your comments relative to the application that's present, please?
The application is a direct threat to all the people of Rhode Island. I'll speak my few minutes and I will say what I think is important to this issue, which is the issue of gas pipeline. Gas pipelines are killing people. You know, we're killing them directly with explosions, but they're killing them because of climate. You know, Rhode Island is going to have sea level rise that is going faster and faster. Do you want that on your heads? Do you want that on your shoulders? You guys need to think really clearly about your obligations under Act on Climate. You know, it doesn't seem like Act on Climate affected anything you did at all. You know, DEM is focusing on Act on Climate. How come you guys aren't not far front and center on your entire agenda? I mean, it's actually amazing that the CRMC is essentially saying we're neutral on gas, when you should be looking at every possible way to eliminate it. The fact that you continue to do this stuff is kind of criminal on your part. You know, I mean, I've dealt with CRMC before, and nobody's happy. And, you know, I'm really hoping that they finally pass something to get rid of you guys, because all you've done is screw the people of Rhode Island repeatedly. And it's time for you to say no more fossil fuels, no more fossil fuel infrastructure whatsoever. The fact that you keep going and it gets this far says you're all incompetent fools.
Sir.
All right, so you're done. You're done. You're done.
I'm done, and you guys are criminals.
You're done. Thank you.
And I want that on the record.
Hello, my name is Will Nakshian, and that's spelled N as in November, AKSHIAN. I live in Cumberland, Rhode Island, and I'm a member of Climate Action Rhode Island, and I'm opposed to this pipeline. And Rhode Island and the rest of the world needs to end its dependence on fossil fuels in order to mitigate the worst effects of the climate crisis. Installing this unnecessary pipeline will extend Rhode Island's dependence on fossil fuels far beyond what is needed. Continued expansion of gas infrastructure will prevent the state from meeting its climate goals that are mandated in the Act on Climate and the Renewable Energy Standard legislation that Rhode Islanders passed. This construction would also create the potential for harmful environmental damage. Repairing the existing pipeline is a far more practical and safer solution. Let's make our state a renewable energy leader instead of committing to decades more of polluting, harmful energy sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Nation? Is that right? Nation? Sir? Nakshian. I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing the last name right.
That's right, yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition? Come forward.
Thank you. My name is Chris Gadbois. It's Gadbois. And I am privileged to live right on the Seconic in Portsmouth. And I would just like to echo one of the previous speakers around the accessibility of the hearings and encouraging people from the impacted area to be able to have an opportunity to speak to you all. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that you're giving us to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak in opposition? Okay. Counselor, I will call you back to the table, please. If there's anything you'd like to respond to or add to.
Sure, just briefly, Mr. Chair. We're not here tonight to debate the use of or the current or future use of fossil fuels. We're here under CRMC's jurisdiction for your regulations for the work proposed here, which is set forth in staff reports and the draft dissent. As to the lining issue, you've heard from our project manager as to why that's not feasible. As to the fracking comment, as noted in the staff report, there is no fracking proposed under this application. And I would last add that we have reviewed the draft dissent, which contains a compliance portion with inspections required for this. No objection to any of that, and the normal course as set forth therein. We would request that this council approve the draft dissent as final, and we remain here for any additional questions.
Thank you. Any questions of the attorney? Any questions of staff from the council in light of the comments in opposition? Mr. Flynn.
Chairman, I just want to note that in the limited time I've been on the council, we have spent, I don't even know how many hours reviewing proposals to support wind energy development offshore. And before my time on the council, many, many more hours, sometimes hearings going on days, with a lot of opposition to developing wind power offshore too. I mean, these are not easy issues, but the notion that the council is somehow not cognizant of issues regarding climate change and the need to shift our energy portfolio to renewable resources is simply not accurate. I just want to state that.
Thank you. Okay. Council, I'm going to posture for a motion. Mr. Gomez.
Yeah, I like the people that have protested. The staff report did note that the objections did not raise to the level of something that we really needed to address. But the people here ought to understand, I live in Little Compton. My house electricity is supplied by solar. My house is 6-inch walls with isolene. My heat is geothermal. My air conditioning is geothermal. And I have propane gas because I need a generator because I live a quarter of a mile in the woods. And when the electricity goes out, I'm the last person to get it. So I do that, and I have a gas stove, and I need that when the electricity does fail. I had a call within the week. Somebody very concerned called me at night and was very upset about the whale kills along the coast. And it was fully attributable to those damn offshore platforms that are being put up. Now, if you go down to Chase Point in Little Compton, you can see 11 or 12, and you can see 5 off Block Island. So you laugh, but that's the way the people feel. When I drive around Tiverton, when I drive around Little Compton, I see a substantial number of signs that says no wind turbines. I see 3, 4, 5 gradually coming along, voting yes for the offshore turbines. They're a long, long way away. We have to have some interim solutions. I spent 57 years working with the Navy. My solution for Rhode Island is to put in 4 very small nuclear reactors, like is going to be done down in the middle of our Atlantic coast, because they can't work with the wind turbines. That would cover the whole state. Nobody wants to talk about that. You power them up once 40 years, you come back and power them up again. Totally safe. They've been in submarines for 60 years. I see this proposal for what it is. It's new equipment which will increase reliability and integrity, as stated in the staff report. The procedure is proven. No expansion of capability has been discussed. I worry about old infrastructure. I know what old infrastructure does. It fails. This is going to be very deep, and the diameter is choked off by the smaller pipeline on the land. I believe that in the technology that requires the reservoir that a 12-inch pipe will provide versus a 6-inch pipe is a good feature. Project is for maintenance, replacement. There is no fracking in the project. It, in my opinion, is the best interim technology we can have until renewables are really here. And as pointed out by a member of the council, that there has been an awful lot of blowback on that. That all being said, along with my opening remarks, I vote to approve the proposal as presented by the staff.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Mr. Gomez, so your motion's based on the recommendations of staff?
Exactly, yes.
The findings in the staff report?
Findings of the staff, findings of fact, staff report, and presentations.
Please keep your comments to yourself. We're in the middle of deliberation here and discussion.
Is it based also on the filings by the applicant? And does it include the additional staff recommendation stated in the staff report, if that's staff's intention? That additional stipulation that's in the draft assent. Does your motion include that additional stipulation?
It does.
In the draft assent.
It does.
Well, a motion has been made by Councilmember Gomez to approve it.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Mr. Izzy?
It is.
Is there any discussion amongst the members on the motion?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
I'm sure many people agree with me that we respect and appreciate all of the comments that were made in opposition to the application. But I also have a tremendous amount of respect for the professional staff that has reviewed the project, conditionally approved it as a Category A, freshwater wetlands, insignificant alteration on 21424, and ready to provide a final assent at the time that they receive the objections. And for that reason, I'll be voting in favor of the motion to approve the application.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will poll the council. Mr. Flynn.
Aye.
Mr. Izzy.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Russolino.
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon.
Aye.
Ms. Reynolds.
Aye.
I too vote aye. Application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. Let them do it.
They're coming in, they.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Tearing down $1 million house and $3 million houses.